Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Goddess Victory Nikke video, and I finally got done with some extensive testing using Ada Wong to see just how good she actually is and if she's worth pulling. Now, if you're like me and got super lucky to one-tap her, then yeah, she's absolutely worth it. TLDR is, she is useful, but we got some pretty interesting results and nuances. And I did a lot of testing in a variety of real-world situations against multiple bosses, as well as in the shooting range. So let's go ahead and start explaining what I did. So first off, I did multiple runs on every single configuration that I'm going to show you here, and I took the average and best result of what those runs were. So I started off in the shooting range, and I did use the scope lock to normalize their power level across units. However, this does not account for gear, and my Ada Wong is lacking in some final gear refinements. So I was not able to overload her boots yet, and I can of course optimize lines a bit more, but I was able to get a few lines of attack and elemental damage, some ammo, but the boots are not overloaded and her skills are all at level 7. So keep that in mind, but this does account for duplicates, and she's on a reasonable level with other units that I'm using here. So I started off with Rappy, Crown, Ada, Cinderella, and Maiden. So this is kind of like generic burst 1, burst 2 that's just powerful in all situations, plus the current top dog of all electric attackers being Cinderella, and Maiden, who is generally on the best electric team, who is an extremely good electric buffer. So in this case, we did a total of 2.384 billion damage, and we did 662 million with Ada Wong and 1.036 billion with Cinderella. So quite a bit more with Cinderella. Now this is pretty much to be expected. Cinderella is one of the strongest units in the entire game, and like I said, currently the strongest electric attacker. So this doesn't mean Ada is terrible by any means. Also, my Cinderella has completely maxed out gear with pretty optimized lines. So advantage, Ada. Okay, so now I did the same run again against the same boss. Again, these tests are with elemental damage here in the shooting range. And this time I replaced Cinderella with a niece. So I want to see, even though Cinderella, predictably kind of was dominant there, was a niece that much better than Ada? So this time we actually got a slightly higher total of 2.461 billion, and we got a total of Ada's damage being 816 million, and a niece doing 839 million. So interestingly, in this run, we actually got more damage with Ada, and we got less damage with Anise than we did with Cinderella, to the point where now Ada and Anise are almost identical damage. Slight advantage to Anise, but Anise has significantly better gear here than Ada Wong does. So even though Anise put up stronger numbers, just barely, I would actually say this is advantage Ada. And again, I did multiple runs like this, and Ada was consistently doing equal damage to Anise, or like close to equal damage, versus doing less damage when she was paired with Cinderella. So I don't know exactly what was going on there. Please comment below if you can kind of explain why Ada is doing more damage in that scenario. It could be something to do with her buffs, but let me know what your thoughts are on that. Okay, also, of course, Maiden is like significantly lower than the rest of them, just because that's kind of to be expected. She's only bursting once during the battle anyway. Okay, so something I do want to point out here is that I did not have a built Ein to compare her against, okay? And Ein is probably the best direct comparison to Ada because they are both electric rocket launchers that deal true damage. But I can tell you that from screenshots I've seen other people post with their results, Ein is generally stronger than Ada Wong. It's kind of what I predicted when I did her skill analysis. Originally, I said that Ada will probably just be like slightly weaker. Ein is going to be the better true damage dealer, and it's looking like that is pretty much true. However, I can't show you personal results for that, so you'll have to take my word on that. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't pair them together, which could potentially be good in certain situations, and we'll talk more about that. So Now I wanted to go to kind of a real world situation and see how good her true damage actually was. So to take a look at true damage, I did a couple ways of controlling this. So first of all, I fought Ultra, which was a neutral elemental boss. Okay, so we're not getting any kind of elemental damage that's going to affect these results. And I went against a, just kind of general boss that has like a typical, stat range for a lot of other bosses. And with this one, again, you can ignore the total damage. It doesn't even matter here. But Ada did 323 million and Cinderella did 729 million. Now, the key point here is the percentage difference. So Ada did 44% of Cinderella's damage, okay, against a boss that has kind of a typical stat pool, you would say, okay? So then I went to fight against Indivilia, which is notoriously high defense. So in theory, the true damage should be showing an advantage here, even without elemental advantage. So again, this is an elemental neutral boss for both of them, but we're going to see how they perform against something with very, very high defense. And Ada did 417 million and Cinderella did 958 million. This time, the difference being almost identical. So Ada did 44% of Cinderella's damage, which I found this pretty surprising actually. So in this case, we're showing that the true damage was not actually that significant, which honestly, true damage has historically kind of disappointed, which is unfortunate. I thought that this might be kind of a niche that Ada could shine in, but honestly, is looking like the true damage is not that big of a deal. Now, at this point, we went to go fight Mirror Container, which is the real enemy, right? Okay, Mirror Container is one of the strongest, most difficult bosses in the game. I would say Mirror Container and Mother Whale are generally the biggest bottlenecks that players encounter in the game. And Mirror Container is two very important things that Ada should like, okay? Mirror Container is a water element, so it will be weak to Ada Wong, and Mirror Container has extremely high defense buffs that it gets, and so you need to do true damage. So in the past, Ein was the go-to to try and push high deficit or get high scores against Mirror Container. Now, will Ada help those that do not have Ein, or someone who has not built Ein like myself? Let's find out. So when I fought Mirror Container, Ada did 589 million damage, and Cinderella did over 2 billion damage. This time, the difference being that Ada Wong only did 29% of Cinderella. So why did this happen? So in this case, there's a couple of things that should happen here. Because in theory, again, true damage should be good. They're both getting elemental advantage. So why did that not go well for Ada Wong? Well, the big thing here is that if you're fighting Mirror Container, you want to capitalize on Cinderella's damage, and your best electric team that you're going to pair her with is going to use Rouge, okay? And Rouge gives a massive buff to Cinderella. Now, sure, Ada is also getting buffed, but it's going to significantly favor Cinderella more, and so the gap gets a lot bigger. Now, the other thing that's going on here that was kind of interesting that I didn't notice at first is that Ada's projectiles actually travel slow enough that they will frequently miss. Mirror Container will dart around and rotate quickly and kind of like float unpredictably. And this is actually enough to make Ada Wong miss a very significant portion of her shots, particularly if she's on auto and you're not manually controlling her and are very skilled at aiming, because it's just a slower traveling projectile as a rocket launcher versus like a quick sniper. So for instance, when you're trying to shoot those glass slippers that you need to hit in one shot, she is not a good unit for that, because you need to have a sniper that will instantly hit it, because oftentimes by the time you've charged up to a full shot, fired at it, the boss will either have moved or the glass slipper will have already done its thing and then you're too late. So keep that in mind. Ada actually is not super advantageous to use against Mirror Container for those reasons. But also, like I said, she's kind of just looking extra worse compared to Cinderella, because of the fact that Cinderella is being paired with Rouge and getting even better buffs. But that's going to be the case if you're using like Summer Anise or Ein or whatever paired with Cinderella. That's just how it's going to be for all of them. Now, let's talk about why, or like what was actually the best team. For me, fighting against Mirror Container, my best score has actually been with Cinderella, Rouge, Summer Anise, Crown, and Helm. Okay, so reasons for that are that Ada, again, just kind of underperformed, and I do have some room to buff up my Ada Wong more, of course. But Cinderella is going to be the bulk of the damage. And then the next highest I could get was actually Anise, because she fires quickly enough that she's going to end up doing more damage at this point. Now, if I got maxed out damage on Ada Wong, I could probably get slightly more, because again, we did see that Anise and Ada Wong had almost the same damage. And so I think that once Ada gets completely maxed out, we might see slight edge to Ada Wong. And I'm just not going to use her to shoot the glass slippers. That's going to be up to Rouge or Helm. And the reason why I'm using Helm instead of Maiden is because everyone can just survive. Oftentimes units will go down if I am using Maiden, and the damage increase total is not that much better, especially considering that Helm can activate Crown and I get more buffs from that than using Maiden. So this is going to vary from account to account, but I kind of wanted to share what I got the best results with and how this may affect what you might want to try here when you are trying to take down Mirror Container. So key takeaways here. Ada is not a pure DPS. Ada is a DPS and a buffer. So actually kind of a similar role to Maiden in that respect. She has slow shots, keep that in mind. So it's hard to like snipe those glass slippers in time if you're using her to do that. She's not really a good candidate for that. And she's basically a slightly worse Ein. So if you have a already fully built Ein, she could be a lower priority. But if you're a brand new player, do you have Ein? Probably not. Do you have Cinderella? Probably not. So Ada is going to be an excellent electric DPS option for you. Now, if you're a brand new player, do you have Summer Anise? You can right now. If you use that selection rerun banner to try and get Summer Anise, getting a copy of her would definitely be a good idea. And she's going to be like equal power to Ada, more or less, in some situations, with Ada probably having a bit of an advantage. So I think that Ada will definitely go on the solo raid team. She's probably going to be on like your second best electric team after the Cinderella team. And it's going to somewhat depend on the boss that you're playing against. So I do think Ada is absolutely worth getting, and it'll be interesting to see how she pairs with Jill, because presumably they're going to kind of ramp each other up because they're going to work very well together. But this is how Ada is going to perform on her own. This is pretty much in line with other collab units that we've seen. They are good, but not busted. They're kind of up there towards the top, but they are not the best in any single category. So that is sort of the rundown on Ada. Let me know if you have any questions, what you guys think about this. If there's anything else that you think would be helpful for people to know, absolutely let me know in the comments below. And here you can kind of see exactly what I was working with Ada, and she can get better. So don't get too discouraged about the fact that she's a lot worse than Cinderella, because that's just not a fair comparison. But I think that there's still a lot of interesting stuff that we learned here today about her. All right, don't forget to subscribe for more Nikke videos. I will, of course, be doing polls for Jill and testing her out as well. And in the description below, check out my polls for Ada if you haven't already seen that, as well as some links to some other like beginner guides and helpful things if you are new to Nikke. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next video or stream.